Well, hello, Heartbreaking Talks listeners. Today we have some stories about cheating women, of course. Nothing changes in this world. Some stories are really wild, so let's start. First story. My girlfriend cheated on me in a horrible way. I started going out with this girl at the beginning of January. We went on 3 to 4 dates before she was gone over the month of February. In February, she was very intense, calling me all the time, wanting to FaceTime me, and messaging me all day. She came back at the beginning of March with a huge bruise on her ass. When I asked her about it, she said she didn't know how she got it. I found it a little suspicious, but I let it go. She did mention once how she liked being choked until almost passing out in bed, which I never did and was a little off-putting. After she came back in March, we were inseparable, hanging out sometimes for 48 to 72 hours at a time. She was on her phone a lot of the time and quickly hid it every time I was close to seeing her screen. She went back home for a couple of weeks and came back last Monday. She asked me to pick her up from the airport at 2 a.m. We were in bed that night and I noticed that she had like 4 bruises on her ass and a few others on her legs and arms. I found it very suspicious and asked her about it. She just said she bruises easily and was horseback riding, which she wasn't. Fast forward to Friday when we went to a bar with her friend and she was approached by a much older guy at the bar who asked for her number. After I told her not to give it to him and her friend also told her to give him the wrong number, she gave him her number and full name. She started crying and drinking a lot after I confronted her about it. When we got home, her friend unlocked her phone and I was able to see the password. The friend deleted the call from the guy and then I unlocked it and blocked him as well. I had to get the phone back to her quickly, so I didn't check anything else. Fast forward to this Sunday when she was sleeping in my bed. I took her phone out and unlocked it. I checked her messages, DMs, and WhatsApps and saw tons of conversations with men, all flirting and sending locations and wanting to see her. She was receptive and not saying she did anything, but she didn't shut them down. She then woke up and called me, asking for her phone since it wasn't next to her. When I gave it back, she said, "Don't think I don't know what you're doing." I asked her if she was cheating, and after denying it and making several faces, she said, "I never fucked anyone in California, where we live." This just floored me. Then she said that a guy gave her the bruises in February and that the same guy gave her the bruises last week while she was on a layover and I went to pick her up at the airport that same night. It's fucking horrible. I've never experienced anything like this. I, of course, told her a bunch of things and she cried abundantly. She said she had told that guy that she was seeing someone that she really liked and wanted to be with, which I think is true based on how she talked about me to her family and friends in the messages that I saw. But still, that doesn't excuse the fact that she was cheating for the last few months and now she was ready to commit. It just broke me and it's very hard to deal with because I really liked her. But here we are. It just sucks and I'm trying to get over it as soon as I can. Feels like fucking fiction. Second story. And don't forget to drop a like and comment your thoughts. So. Never thought I'd be here, but yet here I am. This weekend my wife, 38F, and our daughter, 13F, went to visit her mom. I couldn't go because I couldn't get the time off work and we decided it would just be a girls' weekend for them. I'm a firefighter in a large southern city and I'm on a call and gearing up when our dispatcher calls in to tell me that there is some emergency. I'm not really needed on the work call, so I get my cell phone and find a bunch of texts from my kid and a couple from a number I don't have in my phone. In the course of about 11 text messages, I learn that my daughter has gone ice skating and fallen and broken her wrist. She's in the emergency room but cannot get treatment because no one can find my wife. The number that I don't know belongs to a friend of my wife's who has gone to the emergency room to sit with my kid. She was the chaperone for the girls who had gone skating. So I call this friend and after a lot of hemming and hawing, she admits that wifey has gone to dinner with some random guy. Well, we always leave our location shared with the family because of my job. And sure enough I pull up an address and Google it and it's a fucking hotel. This was 10 p.m. It's now almost 4 hours later and she hasn't answered my texts, but she did finally call our kid. I have permission and insurance information and she got a cast and a referral to see an orthopedist when she gets home. The friend took our daughter back to her grandmother's and texted me. She said, "I'm sorry you had to find out this way about Dan. Apparently it's been going on every time she's gone home that I haven't gone. Meanwhile, I've worked countless hours of overtime to pay off our house, take us a nice vacations, send our daughter to the most expensive private school in our city. Am a fool. Update. Spoke with a lawyer as many of you suggested. During that conversation I realized that she doesn't really have a lot of access to money that is hers. Removed her as an authorized user of my credit cards. Put two-factor authentication on just about anything else that she might try to get her hands on. Pulled my credit report to discover that she opened a joint credit card I didn't know about. Since I'm on the account as well, I was able to log in and print out the charges, a basically perfect timeline of restaurants and hotels that she has paid for. Turns out she also has accounts on Tinder and Bumble, which showed up when I combed through the last few phone bills. Have a pal who is a deputy sheriff in these parts who is going to be here tonight when she gets home. I've gotten her a room at a nearby hotel for the week and paid for it up front. She can sleep there for now and figure it out on her own starting tomorrow. Daughter and I spoke and she knows what is up and is angry at mom. So next steps are to find someone for her to talk to. Thanks to my job I've got great insurance, so that is one less thing to worry about. Decided I am also going to come clean to her mother once wife and daughter are on the plane back here. Taking a couple of days off to deal with this. Okay, brothers. We move to the next story, so please drop a like to support my channel. Mia Hall told my wife's friend that her taste in men is the reason she's a single mom. I am a 29-year-old male and have known my wife, a 30-year-old female, and her best friend Jess, a 29-year-old female, since we were all 11. We attended middle and high school together, but I wasn't part of their social circles. I was always one of the nerdy, awkward kids, while the two of them were both very popular. My wife, in particular, was extremely popular because she was and still is extremely beautiful, kind, and intelligent. She was even our student body president and valedictorian. Jess was also very pretty and similarly popular, and they've been best friends since kindergarten. My wife and I started dating our senior year of high school after we were paired together to complete a project in one of our classes. We realized that we got along really well and she asked me out. I definitely wasn't saying no to her, but Jess from the very start did not respect our relationship and firmly believed that my wife could do much better. She has, in a decade plus since, consistently told my wife that she is out of my league, that I was lucky she settled for me so young, and that my wife belongs with a more attractive and successful man. Now, I'm the first one to admit that my wife is out of my league. She is far more attractive, makes more money, and is just generally an amazing human being. But hearing it so often doesn't exactly feel good. Jess has also tried to convince my wife to cheat on me multiple times and has even tried to set her up with other men because she doesn't approve of my wife and me being the only partners either of us have ever had. Jess has a 5-year-old daughter whose father bailed on her and she raises her as a single mom. Jess actually dropped out of med school to raise her daughter once she realized the father was not going to be in the picture. My wife and I absolutely love her daughter and love having her over. We just had a date on Saturday night, so she left her daughter with us for the night and came to pick her up on Sunday and stayed for lunch because I was preparing lunch for everyone and her daughter was playing in the yard. Jess and my wife were talking about her date. Jess was going on and on about how attractive the guy was, how good he was in bed, and all of the details, but I just ignored it. Jess then looked to me and said, "You're lucky you locked her down when you were so young before she knew that there was better out there," and then turned to my wife and offered to give the guy her number in case she wanted to try him out. I got really angry at that point, so I just said, "I doubt you know anything about better because your taste in men is why you're a single mom and not a doctor right now." Both of them just stared at me in shock and then Jess called me in a hole and left quickly with her daughter. My wife has been upset with me since, so I have to ask. Amarillo, edit. I just wanted to point out that my wife acknowledges that what Jess said was inappropriate but thinks that what I said was unnecessarily cruel. It was always Jess's dream to be a doctor like her dad, especially after her dad passed away, and now that's probably never going to happen. Jess has said this to me before, so I was aware of it, and my wife thinks it wasn't called for to press on something that's so clearly a pressure point for her. Jess also frequently bemoans the pains of being a single mom and about how all of the guys she goes out with ghost her as soon as she mentions her daughter. This is mainly why my wife's upset with me because she thinks I purposely hurt Jess, while Jess's comments are a joke and aren't meant to hurt my feelings, which is probably mostly true. Next story, funny one, by the way. So. Girl from work cheated on her boyfriend with me while he had COVID. By the way, I already know I'm a jerk and I feel terrible. I promised myself to never do this again with anyone. During COVID, I started this job. It was peak COVID, so there was a 2-meter rule, face masks, and everyone had hand sanitizer on their desks, etc. If you got sick, you were instructed to stay home and not return for a week or two if you had COVID. 1 year into this job, a girl joined our team. We'll call her Kay. She was really pretty, and I didn't waste any time starting casual talks with her. While talking to her for a few days in the office, she started to come with me on break time, taking breaks and lunches at the same time. At this point, I didn't know she had a boyfriend because she never mentioned one. She told me she coaches basketball in her previous jobs, etc., but never mentioned him. One day we were chilling at break and she got a phone call and I knew it was her boyfriend because of the conversation going on. I was like, damn, oh well, and forgot about it. But she still came on breaks with me, which was normal by now. One night she sent me a snap, just asking, what are you up to? I just said nothing much and she then proceeded to have a conversation with me on Snap, but every time she sent a pic, it was with her legs sticking out of her bed or basically her cleavage. The conversation never got dirty, but I knew what was going on. The day after, we were in the office and she had to stay back as her workload was big. I stayed and helped. After this, she asked me if I could chill with her for a bit. I said sure and we went to a spot that had a view of a river. At this point, I literally do not remember what happened, but the conversation went really dirty. I think she mentioned she had nipple piercings and so I asked to see. She said she'd show me pics and started showing me pics of her nipples and nudes. She then started kissing me and one thing led to another. She started giving me head. After that, she started giving me head on pretty much every break time in my car. Then one day, she tells me her boyfriend has COVID and she can't see him for 2 weeks. I asked her what she was up to after work and she said nothing. So I invited her to a hotel while her boyfriend was homesick. He called her while we were mid, but she didn't answer till after we got done. As if this wasn't bad enough, she later broke up with him, called me crying at 12 a.m, so I had to go see her, only for her to start kissing me and everything. Then he calls while we're kissing. He was on loudspeaker as the phone was connected to the car's Bluetooth and he started crying and whimpering for her. But then she laid her head on my shoulder and started tugging on me. At this point, I wanted the ocean to fly over and crush me. Never again. By the way, I know I am at fault too, but I was 25 and she was really attractive and was coming on to me hard. One more story for you guys. Today we have tons of fresh real stories. So. My wife and I have been married for 8 years and have 2 sons. About 3 years ago, before our second son was born, we used to attend a Christian church where we loved the pastors. They were always there for us like their own kids, which is why we moved so far to attend their church. At my new job, I was getting stressed out a lot because I never had a full staff and was always working. When I would come home, my wife would ask me if I was going to church. Being so tired, I would tell her no. Just to remind you, they had church 4 times a week and at this point, I was only going on Sundays. We started arguing a lot because she said that I wasn't showing her enough love, never paid attention to her, and never wanted to go to church with her. I kinda get it, but at the same time, I don't because we would always go to the mall or do something else. I started noticing she was texting on her phone all night and when I asked who she was talking to, she would tell me her best friend from church. This was fine by me because we hung out with them a lot. They were another young couple from church and the husband was the pastor's nephew. We all played in the church band together and hung out a lot. My best friend was Daniel. Months went by and one day my wife was crying in the bathroom. I asked her what was wrong and she said she was pregnant. The last time she found out she was pregnant, she made a big deal and was so happy. This time, she was crying. I told her I was excited about our new baby, hoping it was a girl, but she just kept crying. I asked her what was wrong and she told me she had a confession to make. My heart sank into my stomach. She told me she didn't know if the baby was mine or my best friend's. I immediately knew it wasn't mine because she always forced me to use protection. When she told me they had been having sex, each time was without a condom because he said to her he couldn't have kids. She wanted an abortion, so I drove her to get one. After that, we had sex without protection and she immediately got pregnant again. This time, our second son was born. I would have left her, but at that time, my grandpa who lived with me had passed away, and I didn't want to be alone. Now fast forward to now, it haunts me every day, and what's worse is I feel like she is at it again. She went back to church, but not the same one, and now she comes home at crazy times. She leaves me with the kids one day and takes them the next. I don't know what to do. I don't love her, but I don't want my kids to suffer because they really love her. However, she doesn't take care of them, and of course, they love me too, but they prefer their mom. I don't know what to do. It sounds like you're going through a difficult time. It's important to prioritize your children's well-being and safety. Have you considered seeking counseling or therapy to work through your feelings and figure out what steps to take next? It may also be helpful to speak with a lawyer to understand your rights and options in terms of custody and divorce. Remember, you deserve to be in a healthy and respectful relationship. It's important to take care of yourself and your children during this challenging time. Next and the last one story for today. I met a man online. We were both in unhappy marriages. We clicked immediately. He confided in me that he was bipolar. I didn't know much about this illness but didn't care because I liked him. About 2 months into our relationship, his wife found out about us and he moved out. She filed for divorce. I supported him emotionally throughout his divorce. I was still married but extremely unhappy. I always worried that he would leave me eventually because he is single now, and I am still stuck in this unhappy, unfulfilling marriage. I wanted out but lost my job and couldn't support myself if I left. He always assured me he loved me and didn't care. I was torn. I love him so much, but I was married and he was single. It ate at me constantly. I wanted to be single and free. I was tired of lying and making excuses for where I was going or who I was with. He assured me things were good with us. We were together for almost a year. We had our ups and downs, which I would later find out through educating myself with the illness. A lot stemmed from his bipolar disorder and its symptoms. Despite minor arguments, we were attached at the hip. He called and texted me all day, every day when we weren't physically together. We were one and the same and enjoyed each other's company. We laughed hard and we loved hard. We were exclusive and we labeled ourselves boyfriend and girlfriend. I met some of his friends and his parents. We were deeply and intensely in love until one day, it all came crashing down. 6 weeks ago, he suddenly broke up with me. It came out of nowhere. The day before, he loved me and talked like normal. He was sweet and affectionate. The next morning, he broke it off. He said he couldn't deal with the guilt of how he acted within his marriage. That I was right because I am married, I am limited with my time. Which, honestly, wasn't true because I was spending almost all my free time with him. I never blew him off. If he wanted to see me, I was there. No matter what. I answered all his calls or immediately returned them if I couldn't answer at the time. He also said I could never meet his young son because he would know I was partly why his parents were divorced. That statement hurt me more than anything. It made me sound like a monster. I am not a bad person. I was and still am an unhappy woman in an unhappy marriage that made a choice to go outside that marriage and met someone who made me happy. He said he had to close this chapter of his life. So, that is what everything we experienced together talked about, explored intimately was a chapter in his life that he needed to close and move on from. He claimed he needed this separation to deal with this guilt. I will soon find out, though, that his way of dealing with this guilt of cheating on his wife would be immediately jumping into another relationship after me. In fact, less than a week after our breakup, he was posting on Facebook how happy he was, and one of his friends asked if it was because of a certain someone. That someone was not me. So, he was obviously pursuing this person while he was still with me and professing his love for me. I may be delusional, but wouldn't that mean he was cheating on me? The very thing he said he couldn't deal with doing during his marriage. Also, I know I was not the first woman he was with when he went looking outside his marriage. Why didn't he feel guilty then? Why did it take him 8 months to finally grow a conscience? If what he is telling me is true. Now, I don't know what to believe. The worst part about all of this is that immediately after he broke up with me, he blocked my number, so I couldn't even defend myself or discuss what happened. He made his decision with no regard for how I felt and then cut me out of his life as if I never existed. I have never had anyone treat me with such disdain in all my life. He went from a sweet, loving, affectionate man to cold and uncaring literally overnight. Was I finally feeling the wrath of his bipolar disorder, or am I truly just a piece of shit that can be loved one minute and thrown away the next like trash? Why didn't he tell me how he was feeling before he made this life-altering decision? If he loved me as much as he said he did, how could he give me up so easily? I told my husband everything. He doesn't want to divorce me, but I want out. I want to be on my own. I have this unrelenting urge to contact his ex-wife and apologize for my part in their divorce. I can't imagine the hurt she felt after being with this man for almost 10 years and having his child. She is a strong woman. I also would like to ask what it was like to be married to him. Did he have a pattern of doing this? I need to know for the sake of my sanity. I need to know the demise if our relationship was not all my doing. I need to know so I can forgive myself. I am in therapy now. The first few weeks were brutal. I completely shut down. For the first 2 weeks, I couldn't leave the house, let alone my bed. I lost 10 pounds, I hated the sun for shining, the world turned into a dark, cruel place I no longer wanted to be. You see, although I know now it was a fairy tale, he made me feel things I never thought possible. He made me feel young and carefree again. When I was with him, my problems dissolved and it was just us. The most mundane task seemed magical. He may have been using his gift for his own personal gain, but for the short time we were together, I experienced it too. He touched my heart in a way I fear no one will be able to do again. That is what I miss. The escape he gave me. It's not just the loss of the relationship I mourn, it is having to return to the life I was so desperately seeking to leave. I hate myself because I feel I caused all of this. I put my fears in his head and he took those fears, used them as an excuse to leave and ruin my life forever. He took the love he claimed he had for me and is now giving it to someone else. He changed his Facebook status to "in a relationship." It said nothing when we were together. Did he change it now because he found his true soulmate and is finally happy, or did he do it because he knew it is what I desperately wanted for us and it was one last knife in my heart? I will never know. I am dead to him. If you've made it to the end, you're the person I'm trying to reach and read these stories for. Please watch other videos on my channel, it's important for me to share these stories to the large audience. Sometimes I will tell you my story about my wife, but not today. Even though I don't know a lot about you, brothers, I respect all of you. Click subscribe, like, and see you in the next video.